us by the Qur'an and make it our guide, light and mercy. Allah, let us memorize what we've forgotten of it and educate us what we've missed, Oh Allah, grant us the ability to recite it day and night and make it an argument for us.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to a new segment of your show, In the Light of the Qur'an. Today we have a beautiful light that we will try to take from the Qur'an. We will try to benefit from it, and we will try to really correct our understanding of our religion by means of it. It's a very beautiful principle, and it is one of the misconceptions that are cast on Islam today. Those verses talk about the issue of fighting for the sake of Allah. We will try to deal briefly with the issue of jihad, which is a very profound issue, and many misconceptions are cast on Islam based on wrong interpretations, sometimes and most of the time are done deliberately by the enemies of Islam. So hopefully by reciting those verses today and commenting on them, we will be able to clarify the meaning of jihad, and we will briefly clarify the issue of fighting for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and hopefully things will be clear, and we will try to leave no room for any misconception. So we will start first with the recitation, and after that, inshallah, we will elaborate on those verses. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فليقاتل في سبيل الله الذين يشرون الحياة الدنيا بالآخرة ومن يقاتل في سبيل الله فيقتل أو يغلب فسوف نؤتيه أجرا عظيما وما لكم لا تقاتلون في سبيل الله والمستضعفين من الرجال والنساء والولدان الذين يقولون ربنا أخرجنا من هذه القرية الظالم أهلها واجعل لنا من لدنك وليا واجعل لنا من لدنك نصيرا الذين آمنوا يقاتلون في سبيل الله والذين كفروا يقاتلون في سبيل الطاغوت فقاتلوا أولياء الشيطان إن كيد الشيطان كان ضعيفا ألم تر إلى الذين قيل لهم كفوا أيديكم وأقيموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة فلما كتب عليهم القتال إذا فريق منهم يخشون الناس كخشية الله أو أشد خشية وقالوا ربنا لم كتبت علينا القتال لولا أخرتنا إلى أجل قريب قل متاع الدنيا قليل والآخرة خير لمن اتقى ولا تظلمون فتيلا أينما تكونوا يدرككم الموت ولو كنتم في بروج مشيدة وإن تصبهم حسنة يقولوا هذه من عند الله وإن تصبهم سيئة يقولوا هذه من عندك قل كل من عند الله فما لهؤلاء القوم لا يكادون يفقهون حديثا ما أصابك من حسنة فمن الله وما أصابك من سيئة فمن نفسك وأرسلناك للناس رسولا وكفى بالله شهيدا. We'll come back to your show in the light of the Qur'an. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is inviting the believers to fight for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fight in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is saying, Allah is describing them by those who pay the price, pay this life as the price for the ultimate life in the hereafter. So it's a very minimal price paid for the ultimate success in the hereafter. And today we have to talk about the issue of fighting for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because most of the time it's put out of context. It is shown as, sometimes people say it's holy war, sometimes people say Muslims are savages, are barbaric, Islam is a barbaric religion and it calls for bloodshed. But through studying the history of Islam, we know that this has no connection to reality and this has no basis whatsoever in history and even in the teachings of Islam. But we know from the nature of humanity, read through the history of humanity, it's been always a bloody history. There has always been bloodshed and there will always remain wars among humans. Even the nations that claim to be the most civilized in the world, today, at this time, at this day and age, just study the state of the world. Now the nations that claim to be sophisticated, that claim to be civilized, they are the ones who are shedding most blood in the world. They are the ones who are creating mischief in the land. But because they are the ones who impose the common culture and the dominant culture in the world, they still utilize this and they play with this card in order to justify their own desires and their own mischief that they are creating in the land. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is saying, let those who pay this life as a price for the hereafter, let those people fight for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And anyone who fights in the cause of Allah, whether they win or they lose, whether they kill or they are killed, those have achieved the ultimate success. This is the greatest success, is to either win for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it will be a victory for Islam, or they get martyred and they die for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the ultimate success. Then Allah says, and why don't you fight? Allah here is showing us one of the wisdoms behind fighting for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is saying here, why don't you fight in the cause of Allah? Well, there are men, weak men, women and children who say, oh Allah, save us from those people who have oppressed us. There is plenty of oppression in the world, all around the world, and this will remain until the end of time, because that's the nature of human beings. And if you read Surah Al-Baqarah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the angels, I'm going to create a creature or a creation and I will place them on the earth. When Allah said, إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً, I will create people who will succeed each other, generations, one generation after the other, on the earth. What did the angels say? Oh Allah, do you place on earth people who will create mischief and will shed blood? So the angels already knew that the nature of humans, the nature of mankind is to shed blood. And it's been the story of humanity from day one. We know the children, the two sons of Adam, Habil and Qabil, that one killed the other. And it will remain the same. So any people or any party that claim today that they want to create peace in the world, be sure that either they are foolish enough to make such a claim, or they are so conniving and so and that actually they are working, or they have a plan of deception just to show the world that they want peace, they want to spread peace in the world, but actually they have ulterior motives and they have their own goals to fulfill and to arrive at. So this is something we have to be aware of, because this goes against the nature of human beings. Islam doesn't incite people to kill and to murder. Islam doesn't encourage fighting, But Allah is saying here that, why don't you fight when there are people oppressed, people who can't defend themselves, their rights have been confiscated, their dignity and honor has been taken away, the freedom has been taken away, has been violated. So why don't you fight to free those people, to give them back their rights? That's the main objective. One of the main objectives behind jihad in Islam, to give people back their rights, especially the weak ones, who are helpless, who are unable to defend themselves and protect their own rights. So Islam doesn't advocate, Islam doesn't call the people to just shed blood for no reason. On the contrary, Islam and jihad will lead to preserving people's lives and people's dignity and people's wealth and people's property. This is the main goal, one of the main goals of jihad. So this is something we have to make clear to the whole world. But before we make it clear to the world, we have to understand it ourselves. Because unfortunately, even among the Muslims, the word jihad is widely misunderstood. The Islamic history is unknown to the Muslims themselves. So how can you defend yourself? How can you defend your religion? How can you defend your way of life when you don't know its own history, when you don't know the basic principles in Islam, when you don't know the meaning of jihad? And people translate it as holy war, which is actually a Christian term that was used during the Crusades. The Christians used it in order, because they meant by that we kill the Muslims, we get rid of them, we kill those savages, we annihilate them, and we establish Christianity in the Holy Land, which is Palestine, and the land of Asham, natural Syria. They used that first, and then they applied it to us, and they claim, and because they know the negative connotations about this word, they attached it to Islam and to Muslims. Jihad means striving, that we strive for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your act of prayer is jihad. Your act of giving charity against your own desire is an act of jihad. Everything you do for the sake of Allah is jihad. And one of the forms of jihad is fighting to defend the religion of Allah and to defend the weak people in Islam and in this world. Even the non-Muslims, they have the right to be protected. So it's one of the objectives in Islam, one of the maqasid of Sharia, one of the main guidelines in Islam, in the Islamic law, is to preserve people's lives and people's dignity and people's property. They have the right to that. And Muslims are responsible for it. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala points to something very important, that the Muslims, the believers, they fight for the sake of Allah. But the disbelievers fight for the sake of shaitan and their own desires. That's the difference. Even though they claim to be defending justice and liberty in the world, they are fighting for the sake of shaitan. So be confident about the jihad that you do. And unfortunately, many Muslims today, they have tarnished this beautiful principle in Islam, which is the principle of jihad. And they made it, they commit crimes, then they call it jihad. They commit atrocities and they ascribe it to Islam. Islam is free from that. Jihad is an act of worship, like the prayer, like the charity. It has a fiqh, it has rulings that we have to study perfectly before we perform it. It has conditions, it has pillars, we have to understand them before we do something really evil, and then we claim that's jihad. And we actually, those people are doing a crime against Islam itself. So it's our obligation to clarify to people what is the meaning of jihad and what is the wisdom behind fighting, because it's actually default when it comes to human beings that there will always be war. But the difference is, what is the objective behind this war? And what are the aims and the goals that are to be achieved by that? I hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us more opportunity to elaborate more on the concept of jihad and the issue of fighting for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this takes from the Muslims more effort to learn their religion and to practice it, so they can, first of all, understand it, and then they can convey this correct understanding to the rest of humanity. Now, inshallah, another time we will meet to try to get more light from the Qur'an, and hopefully we will be able to implement all these wisdoms that we can take from the Qur'an. Until we meet then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allah pardon us by the Qur'an and make it our guide, light and mercy. Allah, let us memorize what we've us the ability to recite it day and night.